All right, guys, welcome into the Gashouse Gang. Bernie Miklasz, Kevin Wheeler with you here. The Gashouse Gang is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling and my buddies at Game Day Men's Health. Two great clients. We're happy to have you guys on board. Love you both, and looking forward to adding more to this as we go. Bern, we're what episode are we on now? Episode 65. So
it's great.
We're trucking along, man. And with baseball season coming, this thing's only getting bigger.
Yeah, and we got to get more people to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And so and people that do, we're grateful. But we got to get the word out more and have people tell people about this, because the people that check us out seem to be really happy. But it takes time to sort of get that full momentum going. You know, this is new and it's different and it's great. And
I got to get that spiel that all the YouTubers have, right? Like, oh, click that star, that link, that hit the bell. Let's go, follow, subscribe.
Yeah, I do that a little bit. I'm more subtle about it. I watch some YouTubers who almost scare me a little bit when they do that. It's like that subscribe button.
Yeah.
That like button. I'm like, what, dude?
Smash it. Smash that.
Yeah, you know, all you have to do is just like ask. I mean, you don't need to be like throwing punches. You know, it's okay. Yeah, no, that's fun. It's fun though. I kid around because I'm a goofball doing it myself. I don't do that.
I would like to see you do it though. That would be great. Be a lot of fun. Oh no, we just lost the audio for a second there, Bern. I don't know what that was. But obviously, yeah. Let's see here. Yep. Somehow the mic got muted, so I don't know how to fix that on this end. But we'll be setting up to talk cards today. We'll be obviously talking about the Super Bowl as we go along. And obviously, when you subscribe, by the way, you should subscribe to the Gashouse Gang on YouTube, but also go to the Bernie Show on YouTube and do the very same thing. Obviously, you're getting a lot of content that way, and you're getting a lot of different versions of the same things. So here's what we got. We got a lot of things to get to. We got some people popping in already with comments. We'll cover some of these comments as we go. We're going to talk Super Bowl a little bit later on. And that includes, by the way, the game itself, you know, Eagles and Chiefs, but also bigger picture, what the Super Bowl is, and what it is in St. Louis, despite people that tend to want to pretend that it's not as big a problem as you might otherwise think. And let's see here. I think we got this fixed up. Bernie, we got you back.
I think so. I hope so.
Well, good deal.
Now the camera doesn't want to work, so I don't know. I told you I was having problems today.
Hey, listen, it's going to be that way, man. That's it. And I don't think anybody's going to worry about it because as far as I'm concerned, we're just going to roll, and that's all we got to do. But we'll talk football a little bit later on. I was setting up, Bernie, that we'll do some about the game itself. We'll do some about, the perception of the league, with the fact that it's still popular here in St. Louis. But obviously, we always begin our focus on the Cardinals.
Sure.
And you had a piece yesterday on Scoops with Danny Mac that really I thought was interesting, as you ran through a lot of the things that essentially these are the things that need to happen if the Cardinals offense is going to be better this year. And I don't care if it's a reset. I don't see any reason why the offense couldn't be better.
Well, yeah. And you know, if I want to actually sort of do a follow-up to what I wrote, because I was getting some comments yesterday, and this stuff's right up your alley. I was getting some comments because I was talking about, well, this guy has to do this and this guy can get better. Here's what he has to do. And I just went right down the list. And I got a lot of kind of like, oh, so your answer is that, these guys have to do better and will do better. And you're basically saying they can do better. Why would the same players they're bringing back do better? And once again, I continue to be amazed. Is that the word? Amazed, but by how dense people are. Go back through baseball history and you see even really terrific hitters have an off season and then they bounce back. So when you say the same guys they had last year, well, did you like Jordan Walker in 2023? I did. Did you like Nolan Gorman in 2022 and 23 and for the first 2.5 months of 2024? I sure did. Did you like Lars Nootbaar when he was able to play and he was in a lineup? Did you like the numbers he put up? Oh, I sure did. Brendan Donovan at his very best. Did you like that? Especially when he was drawing walks, getting on base at a fat rate. Oh, yeah, I like that. Do you like the fact that Wilson Contreras is one of the best right-handed hitters in baseball? Yeah, I like that. Do you like the fact that Alec Burleson, granted, he tapered off at the final month. For 5 months, he was a really strong hitter. Yeah, I like that. Did you like Mason Wynn? Yeah, I like that. So my point is like, why does so many people listen? I'm hung up on last year because the offense was terrible. That's the whole point of talking about why it could get better.
Right.
But because some guys weren't good last year, it's not the end of their careers. It was not that long ago that they were really good hitters. We've seen them do it. Not 5 years ago, not 8 years ago, as recently as 2 seasons ago. So it's not crazy to expect, especially with a new hitting coach, to expect improvement from a lot of these guys. Why is that so hard to process, Wheels?
I don't know. And I always get caught up in this too, because I think we become too absolute when we're talking about these things, because the conversation isn't all of these guys are going to be better.
Right.
That's not the conversation. The conversation is, here are all of these guys, and here's how each of them could be better. Some of them will, some of them won't.
Right? That's what I did, right?
Right.
That's what I did.
Right.
And if the offense
is better, it will be because
of
the things we're talking about. And if it's not, we'll be talking about getting different players next year.
You know, and some of it is also the managerial choices.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I did a thing. Listen, I know that this was part of the time in between injuries for Wilson Contreras, who was catching, but Ivan Herrera was 24 years old last year, and he was one of the top 5 or 6 hitters in the majors, 24 years and younger. And he was the second best hitter on the team, at least among those that had 250 plate appearances last year. And yet they sent him to Memphis on July 4th, and he didn't come back until late August. And you wonder why your offense stinks? Stuff like that. Ali Marmol was saying during the winter warm-up, for example, and I added this to the piece because I forgot to mention it in the piece that I wrote originally, so you may have not seen this one, but it's on there now. They keep talking about, we're going to be aggressive. We're going to run. We're going to run. We're going to run. We're going to steal bases. We're going to be exciting. We're going to create action. Well, if this is a reset year and you really believe that, then why is Victor Scott seemingly going to be the odd man out? Victor Scott, Wheels, last season was tied for the 3rd best sprint speed in Major League Baseball. And in the minor leagues, all he did was steal bases and no one could stop him. But do you even get the sense that they're serious about giving him a chance to win the center field job? That's an example too. It's not just the player himself. It's the way the player is viewed by the manager in the front office. And sometimes I wonder why they view things the way they do. That's all.
Yeah, and I think, before we can dig deeper on all this as we go, but I think that's to me, one of the most interesting things about how this offense can be better is whether or not the manager, the coaching staff, and the front office will allow it to be better and make decisions based on current circumstances. And again, I'm all for adapting. If you've got a time where the top 6, 7 guys in your order are mashing, all right, that's fine. I mean, we can go for defense behind the plate. We can play maybe a little defense in center field if you have that dynamic. But if you're in a place where you need offense, well, then you also have to use the correct people, right? That means if you need offense, Lars Nootbaar should be your center fielder. If you need offense, Ivan Herrera should be your catcher. I mean, for Herrera's stuff is not fluky, man. He's had a reputation for being this kind of hitter his entire minor league career. And you pointed out some of the statistical achievements, which are crazy, like a 372 on base percentage. But if you look at things like his bat speed, he's well above average. He's in the top 25% of Major League Baseball in bat speed, in expected performance based on the quality of his contact, on walk rate. There are measurables there that say this guy should be getting a lot more opportunity. And honestly, it could be at DH. But if you're going to do that, let's assuming for this conversation that Arenado eventually gets moved, well, then that's going to mean Burleson in a corner and Newton center, because Burleson's probably the primary DH in most settings. And, that should be what happens, I think, when Herrera's not catching. I think he should still catch, but if he's not, let's keep the bat in there. So I think decisions have a lot to do with this. And Bernie, what do you think about whether or not they will adapt and start to play more to the left-right splits instead of just sometimes forcing the square peg into the round hole.
Well, they should, and they got to be. Yeah, they should. I think they will. I actually thought it's hard to explain. See, they have some guys that, like Lars Nootbaar is a really good example.
Yeah.
All the people that refer to him as a fourth outfielder for some reason.
No.
You know who with Goldie gone and some other guys gone over the last 3 years among hitters, Cardinals hitters that have at least 150 plate appearances against left-handed pitchers. Contreras is best. Lars Nootbaar, who bats left-handed, is the second best performer against left-handed pitchers.
Yeah,
see, that's an example.
Yeah, like, he's not a platoon guy, but Burleson, I think, is.
Oh, he definitely is. And Brendan Donovan, there was one of these years where he wasn't so hot, but he holds his own against left-handed pitchers.
Absolutely.
So, no, I think platoon splits are important, but I didn't really have an issue with the way Marmol was doing it last year. I
thought through a lot of the year, like it's kind of the time of period you were talking about, Bernie, in your piece about when Herrera's in AAA. I mean, you've got guys on the bench that are basically not playing, right? Matt Carpenter wasn't playing.
Well, that's right.
Just Brandon Crawford wasn't playing, and you could have had right-handed bats there that could have augmented your lineup, maybe a start here and there, maybe a pinch hit late in games, and maybe it's just that. But I would just like to see a little bit more. And I would also like to see more flexibility in general, right? Like, let's not be so rigid about defense in center field. Let's not be so rigid. You can adapt to what your team needs at a moment. You know, if your team needs defense, go get it. If your team needs offense, then do it.
Well, if you have leads in the late innings, that's where defense is more valuable, probably.
Yes.
No, and then, roster construction is a big part of this. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Ali Marmol was somehow opposed to signing Crawford and Carpenter. He wasn't. But, instead of, providing some opportunities to people that were more capable, they didn't do that. And so they had a terrible bench, and they could have had a better bench. To your point, my friend, they could have had a better bench. But a lot of it has to do with lineup decisions. But they're really obsessed with defense. If they're so obsessed with defense, then why don't just keep Arenado? I mean, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? You can kind of see the irony of that. And of course, I get lectures. Well, Bernie, it's about getting rid of his contract. Well, wait a minute. Hold on. Time out. Cardinals fans want him to spend money. So why are you worried about Arenado's contract? Ain't that bad the rest of the way? And I'm not advocating it. I'm just playing devil's advocate on that.
Right. It's the Gashouse Gang with Bernie Miklasz and Kevin Wheeler. Obviously, a little more baseball, then we'll turn to the Super Bowl. But before we do that, Bern, tell us about Saliga.
I'd be happy to. We started calling Saliga Heating and Cooling about 16 years ago, maybe even 17 years ago. And it was actually an acquaintance of mine said, because I said, well, I don't know who to call. Call Saliga. They're really good. That's what we've used. We live in the south side. And that's what, we use. So I followed that advice. We called Saliga Heating and Cooling, and we've been with them, calling them for the last 16, 17 years. And they're fantastic. It's proud, independent, American standard heating and air conditioning dealer. They can handle all kinds of work, any makes and models, residential, commercial, and all that. And what's wonderful about them is their track record. 1927, same family, 4 generations. You got to be great at what you do, man. You got to have 100% credibility if you're still thriving almost 100 years later. I mean, you've built this great family business because you're great at it. So I'm a huge fan. We are thankful to Saliga Heating and Cooling for their honesty and their professionalism and how smart they are, and they never try to hustle or sell you something. Go to SaligaHeatingCooling.com and take a look at the Priority Club. It's a maintenance plan. It's really, really good. It'll save you money. And of course, financing options are available for subject to credit approval. Go to SaligaHeatingCooling.com.
All right, Bernie, let's
yes, sir.
Let's hit a few. I had a few comments here I want to throw up because they're interesting and they're along the lines of what we're talking about.
Sure.
So William says, if catchers are DHing, the roster construction stinks. Well, no. That just means one of your catchers is a really good hitter and you're trying to get him more at bats. Exactly. And the other one is a better defender. And you sometimes want to play defense behind the plate. It doesn't necessarily mean that. I will say it can be mishandled. You can do all of that incorrectly. It's just not inherently incorrect. Like as an example, Baltimore this year is planning on using Adley Rutschman as a DH more than they have in the past because they think he wore down from catching too much. Right.
As someone who follows the Orioles, that's absolutely right.
That's not poor roster construction. That's just trying to get the most out of a very talented player. And that's what we're talking about with Herrera. If the defense
Right.
isn't what we need, well, the bat's still good, and you got to find a way to get it in there.
Well, yeah, with all due respect, I didn't understand the comment. The roster construction is bad if you're going to use a catcher at DH. DH is to use a really good hitter, and you have a bad offense. So who gives a damn what position the guy plays? If he's available to take DH at bats,
and if he's a good hitter,
what? So you want to start a lesser hitter at DH? I didn't understand. I never knew that there was a prohibition against catchers DHing if they're good hitters. And by the way, the Cardinals have Jimmy Crooks on the way, another really outstanding hitting catcher. So what, are we going to ban him from DHing if that's a way to get his bat in the lineup down the road? Let's not, my friends, let's not be silly, right? That's all. Let's not be silly.
Again, William followed up with this. William,
no,
he said your reserve corner infielder should be better than your catcher. Like, no, reserves are reserves for a reason. If Herrera is a starting caliber bat, but let's say he is, let's just say he's also a below, just for the sake of this argument, let's say he's a below average defender that you can put back there maybe 40% of the time and feel comfortable, but you'd rather play some defense, but he's a legitimate bat. Well, there's nothing that's all that matters. It's the quality of the offense that matters when it comes to who's going to DH, not what position you play.
Do we not understand what the purpose of a DH is?
It's just to have an extra hitter, a good one. Yeah, I
see. This is my problem. There is so much, and we've done it. We've done it today on the Gashouse Gang. There is so much to question and criticize, to scrutinize, and say, man, they can do this better. They can do that better. They should do this. I'm disappointed that they're doing that. But this thing where you're going to draw this line in the sand about a catcher who can hit like hell and putting him at DH when you can, or if it makes sense, we're drawing a line in the sand on that. Easily one of the silliest things I've ever heard since we've been doing
we just have to adapt based on who players are and rather than what position they are. Couple of quick there are a couple more comments that are relevant to the conversation, Bernie. We were talking about Nolan Arenado, and obviously we're talking defense versus offense and all that balance. And Thomas points out he thinks the only possible Gold Glove candidate for 25 would be Nolan Arenado. And I would say no. I mean, Mason Wynn was just a finalist, and Mason Wynn's not getting worse.
Brendan
Donovan's already won a Gold Glove, so.
And I think he was a finalist last year too.
Yeah, as a utility guy.
So what? I'm once again, I'm confused.
Yeah, I think, and look, all of these guys, you guys are all regular viewers, listeners. You
love
guys
them. I love them.
We appreciate it.
But I can disagree with them. Yeah. That's all,
But this is what you should hear Bernie and I argue when we're off the air.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, this is what guys do when we talk sports. So don't take anything personally.
That's right. Listen, one of the many things I love about Wheels is that, the last people in the world who should get all hurt feelings because someone says, no, I think you're wrong, dude. Here's why. He rolls with it because he likes to have those conversations. I've never understood people who get all hurt, especially media people. It's just like you say, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. You're wrong on this.
We got some brothers in our line of work that do not like being.
No, and see, and you and I just let it go, man. That's the whole point. Sports fans sit amongst themselves, debate these things. We do too. And as much as we love everyone who watches us and subscribes to us and leaves comments, I'm not going to patronize people by saying, "Oh, that's really a good point." No, if I think it isn't, I'm going to say so. It's not a big deal.
No, and look, if you think I pick on you guys, you should hear how I talk to my friends.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, or my brother. God Almighty! If you just talk to my brother, Bern, he's going to be in town in May. I'll introduce you guys. He can tell you how quote unquote nice I am to my brother. All right,
yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, and look, and it's again brotherly love, and all of our listeners, all of our viewers, you guys are on the same planet as my friends and my brother when it comes to how we talk about things. So you're all good. Right. All right, so it's the Gashouse Gang. Bernie Miklasz, Kevin Wheeler with you here. Obviously, Bernie, we're going to switch over and do a little Super Bowl with the big game now, just a few days away. And there are a couple angles. Let's save the game itself for our last segment. We'll talk a bit about this matchup, but. The Super Bowl, I put this on Twitter earlier, the Super Bowl and the NFL, they rule the sports world, and they actually rule the entertainment world.
They do.
Nothing else in entertainment gets the audience that the Super Bowl does. Nothing else in entertainment gets the consistent audience that the NFL does. And that includes St. Louis. That includes the ratings in St. Louis.
Right.
It's just a big show. And you know why, Bernie? I think it's easy. It's just such a unique thing in sports because of all the professional sports. This is the only one that doesn't have a series. When you have a series, you can't just plan the venue years in advance. You can't have a 7-game series at a neutral site. Nobody's traveling for 7 days. You're going to have a half-empty stadium. Nobody's going to a game if their team's not in it, in that setting. But for the Super Bowl, it's because it's one game at a time. It's the nature of the sport that really, I think, creates drama. Every game is worth 10 baseball games, right? Everything is bigger. There's much more emphasis on gambling, and that increases interest. It's easy to follow because even if you're a busy person with a family and 6 kids or whatever, you've got time for one game a week to sit down and watch your team and pay attention. The football rules for a lot of those reasons, and that's okay.
Well, it's more than okay. It's America. It's a tradition that's established, and you're not a weirdo if you believe that this is the single most popular day in American sports. At some point we're going to have to separate the bad lingering blood about what happened with the Rams, and just understand that as much as you want to kvetch about it and make other people feel guilty for watching football, especially the Super Bowl. Good luck, because I don't care what you think about that. I really don't care. If you pay the mortgage and you bought the TV set and I agreed to let you control what I watch, then you have a say in it. Otherwise, buzz off, because I don't care. It isn't just it's become an American holiday. It's become an American holiday. It's on a Sunday, but it's an American sports holiday. Do you hear of people having World Series parties like every game? Like their house filled with people, friends and families?
No.
How about NBA Finals? Like NBA Finals, is there a big NBA Finals party in houses everywhere across America? No. It's one day. To your point, you can fit it all in. Super Bowl parties are just as big as part of the tradition as the game itself. I used to say when I covered 30 some Super Bowls before I shifted in my career, right? That this will sound funny, but people would always ask me like, well, what's that like at the Super Bowl? I said, well, listen, I love going, but it's also kind of a mess. It's like, it's not easy to, it's kind of, I usually came home from Super Bowl weeks pretty tired.
Yeah.
Because you're just like literally just like running into people the whole week and just, trying to get through these crowds and mobs of media and people asking stupid questions and trying to get a viral video up or whatever. But I used to say to my friends, I would say like, dude, you all get to have a Super Bowl party. I want to have a Super Bowl party. I haven't been able to have a Super Bowl party. And ever since I shifted in my career, we have a little Super Bowl get together every year. And I love it. You eat what you want. You make fun of stuff. You watch the commercials. You have all kinds of good food and beverage. And you root for certain teams to win. The other thing that the NFL does really well about the Super Bowl, their halftime show has become it's been a really, really big deal for a long time. A really big deal. I'm watching VSiN. I'm watching NFL Network. I'm watching this. I'm watching that. And one of the big topics of the week, not exactly along the lines of like, well, can Steve Spagnuolo's defense stop Saquon Barkley? But one of the big storylines of the week is like, okay, because you can bet on this. What's Kendrick Lamar's first song going to be? and there are offshore books and some books in Vegas that are taking bets on this. Like you can bet on what the first song is. Does that happen in any other sport? I don't think so. Maybe soccer. I don't know. Now I'm talking about international soccer. So yeah, they've turned it into a huge event. I was with long time ago now, maybe 10 years ago. Or maybe maybe 11 years ago, I had dinner with Roger Goodell. Don't hate me. Can I still stay in St. Louis? I had dinner with Roger Goodell and actually to talk about the Rams situation. And he had some of his staff there, and he's like, we got to make this Super Bowl halftime show. It's good, but we really got to make it big. And so Goodell says, we need to book Beyonce, okay? We got to raise our game with this. And he was going over all these people that he wanted to book for the halftime show. Now, people might say, well, shouldn't he be worrying about other things? No. When you are the commissioner of the biggest, most profitable, and in terms of TV entertainment, combining regular entertainment with sport, he's got the most important job in terms of any of the commissioner in sports, because entertainment is a big part of what they do. Marketing is something that they do exceptionally well. And the halftime show is also a big part of their biggest day in the sports calendar.
Yeah, right? I think there's no question. I got to be, there are a couple things that I love the game, right? I'm always in for a championship game. So I love the football side. I do kind of hate Super Bowl week.
Well, I do too.
Because I get so tired of like everybody acting like they have some secret angle.
Right,
like, what's this? Like, dude, you have no idea.
No,
these two teams haven't played. I saw one guy on Twitter, like, the Eagles are 5-0 on turf this year. I'm like, who cares? Who cares if they won a game on turf in September against a team that wasn't the Chiefs? All that matters is how these two teams match up against each other, and we're going to find out. Now, there are keys, right? There are important things to watch, but there are no secrets. We've seen these teams 20 times this year. We know who's who. It's not that complicated.
Wheels, I covered every Super Bowl from the 1982 season all the way up until about maybe 2013 or 14. I hated Super Bowl week. I hated it. I wanted to get to the game so bad because of the stuff you talk about. There's a lot of people that show up with media credentials, and the NFL, to their credit, they're actually like, "Oh, you want a media credential? Sure," because they know that that's part of the story. Oh, there are 5,500 media credentials issued. See, the NFL gets to reinforce the idea. See, we're bigger and more popular, and we drive more media to our sport than anybody else. That's a badge of honor for them. So. But it's really stupid. It's really stupid. And anybody who goes down there, a football writer or columnist, like looking for an actual story, as far as like a meaningful story, forget about it, because you can't get questions off, because there's some little kid from Nickelodeon or somebody from some dude's like hometown paper, or people just like, if you have a good conversation going, it's going to be interrupted by a lot of these weird questions and silly questions and somebody trying to get a viral video, So the idea of like, listen, I've been working on handicapping this Super Bowl, and I've been working at it at home because I've come up with a lot of incredible stuff, and it had nothing to do with talking with anybody.
Right.
Because, because you can find out all you need to know as far as some of the trends. So I hated Super Bowl week. I loved the game. And I really loved flying home the day after the game. But it's an event. You feel you have to be there. So anyway, but I hear you.
All right, so we'll move on to the Eagles and Chiefs in a second. But last thought, KT threw this out there, and I'm going to co-sign on this to a degree, because he points out, he says, the demos for the Super Bowl do not reflect a Kendrick Lamar crowd for 30 to 60-year-olds. Now, I disagree with that. Kendrick Lamar is huge. Kendrick Lamar is huge. He appeals to a large group of people. But I will say this, and Thomas pointed this out too. Can you at least do some fan service for fans that are rock fans occasionally? Yeah. Do we have to have it be R&B, hip hop, pop music every year? Can we not throw in a rock band every once in a while? I mean, if the last one was 2010 and it was the Who, a band that blew up 60 years ago, or the Rolling Stones shortly after that, which is the one here that KT is referring to. Like, I get it. It's not what it used to be. I'm a rock guy. I don't care if you do it all the time, but occasionally would be nice, because you're appealing to people mostly that are not football fans. Maybe once in a while do a little fan service. You don't have to do it every year. Maybe one out of every 5 years. Give us something. Throw me a bone.
I don't even know how to answer that. I mean, the best Super Bowl halftime show I ever saw in person, or if I would have been on TV, was Prince down in Miami with the rain coming down.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
It was extraordinary. So But I don't know, man. Me being at Super Bowls, and I'm a man of a certain age. I'm going to be 66 later this month. And the thing of it is, when the Rolling Stones came out, everyone knows I love Springsteen. I love Springsteen. I thought his halftime show was schmaltzy and gimmicky. I've seen a lot of these tired acts, and they're my quote demographic.
Right, but stop picking rock bands from the 60s. Let's get something from the last 10 or 20 years.
Yeah,
man.
I don't know. I don't know if I would trust him to make that. And by the way, I completely push back on this idea that Kendrick Lamar doesn't fit demographics.
No, he totally does. He totally does.
Kendrick Lamar is rather unbelievable, and I say that as a 66-year-old man.
Yeah.
And the dude won a Pulitzer Prize for songwriting.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's not some guy to blow off. He's just a rapper.
No, he's amazing. And a lot of these people are. Rihanna was amazing. Like they are. But at some point, can you throw some of us the occasional bone? Because I just walk out of the room at halftime at this point because it's not stuff that appeals. And I don't want you to do it for me all the time, but I think there are a lot of football fans that would appreciate the occasional halftime rock concert.
Well, what I don't understand is why the halftime show is so limited in time. Each artist gets 12 minutes. If you just double that, the players would appreciate the rest. I know all of us at home that want to refuel and all that would appreciate that little extra. You could do 2 acts. You could do something that fits rock and roll. You could get another different demos in terms of genres of musics, but for 12 minutes, that's kind of hard to do. All I know is like a lot of those older rock and roll acts, despite what people think, maybe even you, they didn't move the needle at all for the NFL.
No. I wouldn't put them out there. I mean, like Thomas, I love Iron Maiden, buddy, but I would never put them on there. something newer. Now, as an example, it's not the right one, and then we'll move on because then we got to talk about the game. But the example of what the Olympics did in their opening ceremonies with the rock band Gojira, that was really cool. And they just won a Grammy for best rock performance for it. Like, I'm not saying them, they're not big enough of a name, but there are bands out there that aren't from the 1960s and 70s that could put on a great show. And again, once out of 5 or 6 years, I don't care all the time. I get it. I want to put the biggest people out there because the biggest show is what makes it the biggest show.
Well, the game is the thing for me. Whatever they put on at halftime in terms of the act, I watch the act because it's part of the show. I just don't get bent out of shape about it. I'm sorry. I don't care.
I just want to rock, man. I just want to headbang at the halftime.
If they let you program the halftime show, I would be frightened.
Slipknot would be doing it.
Yeah, I would advise if Wheeler's in charge of like booking the music for halftime, I would try to alert law enforcement agencies all across the country. It's like, please, you cannot let children watch this.
Yeah.
It's a no. Stay away from that.
Yeah. And by the way, I agree with Matt. Prince is a rock star. He is a rock star. He's one of the best guitarists you've ever seen.
Prince actually was everything.
Yes.
You name a genre of music, he can master it. He was everything.
100%. All right. It's the Gashouse Gang. Bernie Miklasz, Kevin Wheeler. More Super Bowl in a second. But first, Bernie, tell us more about Saliga.
I tell you what, man, I'm going to make Matt Pauley talk about the game tomorrow.
We're going to do it now.
I can't. At least Chris and Amy asked me about the Super Bowl game itself today. Say, Wheeler, you want to talk about all this other stuff. I want to talk about the game. I'm just so anyway. Call Saliga Heating and Cooling at 314-481-7333. We've been a family of Saliga since, like I said, 16 going on 17 years, and they've been serving St. Louis family since 1927. And they're an independent American Standard heating air conditioning dealer, which is part of the appeal because that American Standard equipment is the industry leader. It's the gold standard. So they'll take care of you. They've always taken care of us. They've taken care of St. Louis families, or they still wouldn't be going strong 100 years later, nearly 100 years later. They also have all kinds of other services that aren't exactly heating and cooling. And I want you to check out the Priority Club. You become a member of the Priority Club. It's a maintenance plan. There are so many benefits because we're members of the club of preventative maintenance. Your equipment lasts longer, so therefore you save money. It extends the life of your equipment. Also, you get priority scheduling. You get the safety and the peace of mind of knowing everything's working the way it should work. So Saliga and Heating and Cooling is the best. I'll just leave it at that. And you call them and find out more about all this stuff and check out the financing options that are available, subject to credit approval. But it's 314-481-7333 or go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. Thank you.
All right, the big game, Bernie. You've got a 15-win Chiefs team, a 14-win Eagles team. They're very different, but in one way, they're the same. They both have great defenses. They both have diversified, versatile offensive attacks. Philly's probably not going to, probably not going to beat you by throwing the football a lot. That's not really their strength, although they can. They've got great receivers, but Hurts isn't what Patrick Mahomes is, as an example. And I think this is one of the more fascinating matchups in recent years, Bern, because we don't get very many 1-point spreads in the Super Bowl, right? I mean, that tells you all. We don't have to worry about covering. It's win or lose, and whoever you pick to win or lose is going to cover at this point if it stays at 1. I don't love either team. So when I think it's as close as this, I tend to gravitate toward the better quarterback, and I think that's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and I agree as a general principle. And by the way, whether you're a gambling man or just a fan, I mean, all you got to do is look at Mahomes' postseason record. It's just absolutely ridiculous. He's going for his 10th straight win. He's 17-3 in his career, and 2 of the losses were to Tom Brady, who's not a threat this year.
No.
But I listen. Philadelphia nearly beat them, and I think should have beat them 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And that was a Philadelphia team that didn't have some of the receiver talent they have now, and they had Miles Sanders at running back instead of Saquon Barkley. Right. And they also had a good defense, but they didn't have the number 1 defense. This is a very special defense, and they create particular matchup problems for the Chiefs. And the thing that's looming over this game is, okay, the Chiefs have been vulnerable, generally speaking, against the run this year. In fact, Houston ran the ball very well against them. Buffalo ran the ball very well against them, especially with James Cook. And the Spags defense showed, are they going to be able to slow down Saquon Barkley? Let me throw you a stat that I think is really relevant in this game. Because I look for trends, I look for indicators. If in Super Bowl history, and this is 58 of them coming into this game, Super Bowl histories, teams that get a 90-yard rushing game from one of their backs are 23-10. But when a Super Bowl team has a back scoot for 100-plus yards rushing in the big game, they're 17-5. So can Spags? No one's going to stop Barkley, but can Spags eliminate? Cut down on kind of explosive play runs? Can he keep them at 90 yards? He's got smart game plans, but not always. But the thing he does the best is adjust. Like if you give Spags something he's not expecting, he'll adjust. Second quarter on, they're great. Yep. Look at their last 2 Super Bowls. They shut down Christian McCaffrey last year. He was at the top of his game. They completely shut him down. Yep. And they allowed Philly's running backs an average of 2.6 yards per rushing attempt 2 years ago. Sorry about that. The other thing, I'll be quick on this. The other thing that really interests me, see, people say the Chiefs have a lousy offense or below their standards is kind of mediocre. It's not entirely accurate. You know what the Chiefs did better than all but 2 teams this year? Driving the ball down the field to get into the red zone. What they didn't do is score enough touchdowns once they got there. You know who is the master of red zone defense in the NFL and has been for quite a while? Is Vic Fangio, Philadelphia's defensive coordinator. If Vic Fangio can do it, he constricts that defense down in the red zone, man, and it is really hard to score touchdowns. He wants you to kick field goals. If he can do that, which, by the way, fits a Chiefs weakness anyway, not scoring enough touchdowns, I think Philadelphia's got an excellent chance to win a game.
Yeah, they do. I view this as a coin flip. Neither way is a surprise. I don't really have a rooting interest. If I had to pick one, I'd probably pick rooting for Philly because my mom's family is from the Philly area. I mean, like that's about it. Like there's no real attachment. I just really think this is a competitive, exciting game that will probably be decided in the final 10 minutes.
And we'll see what Spags can do with Jalen Hurts, because Jalen Hurts has horrendous statistics when he is pressured.
Yeah.
He is one of the worst quarterbacks in the league when throwing against the blitz.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
Believe me, I research all this. So Spags is the blitzmaster. So there's this game's got so many different aspects to it. I don't trust that Chiefs offensive line, though. That's the other thing. I don't trust them at all. So
should be fascinating, man. You got a great matchup. You had two great defensive coordinators. Obviously, Andy Reid's got the history of getting it done. I mean, he's one of the greatest playoff coaches in the history of the league, right up there with Belichick and Lombardi. And obviously, you got rock stars on each side, Saquon on one side and Mahomes on the other. I think it just all sets up for a great matchup.
Yeah, it really does. So I hope it's a great game. That's what I root for that every year, unless I got money on it. I don't have any money on it.
I will not have money on this one.
So, but I root for a good game, or I root for my brother's bet to cash in. He lives in the state of Maryland where you can bet on sports legally. So anyway.
That's awesome. All right. Well, we're going to get more on the Super Bowl with you tomorrow with Matt Pauley. And obviously we'll do that tomorrow on DGS as well when we have you on. We'll talk more about the game itself.
I was just giving you a hard time earlier.
Dang it. I fell for it. All right. Let's go to wrap up the Gas House gang for today. Bernie and Matt will be back with the Gas House gang tomorrow.